It's time for the Sports Blitz, the only live-streamed local sports show in Arkansas, with all the latest on the sports stories that matter to you.
What a day it is here on the Sports Blitz. Mark Freeman, Maddie Lassiter inside the Cogswell Motors studio. Brad Caldwell is on the phone. We are happy to be bringing you the Sports Blitz today, bringing you the latest in local, state, and national sports. And it's football season, folks. It started last night, the kickoff to the college football season, North Carolina, South Carolina at 5 o'clock, and then Ole Miss Vanderbilt in the nightcap. That Ole Miss Vanderbilt game, one of the best games I've seen in a very long time. Brad, I know that football got your blood pumping last night. What did you think about those games?
Really good games to watch, entertaining games to watch. I definitely took away some things from those games, at least what you can take away from an early season game. That Ole Miss Vanderbilt game was an instant classic, 39-35, just going back and forth, 2 touchdowns within the last 2 minutes of the ball game there, and then Vanderbilt was threatening on another one to win the ball game. I also stayed up and watched the Rutgers-Fresno State game because that has a little bit of Arkansas flavor as well to it, and Fresno State was able to pull out a 52-51 victory in first overtime. So it was a very good night for college football, especially for the first night.
Yeah, well, in Rutgers, like you said, Arkansas plays Rutgers, so that's a big deal that you got to look at Rutgers on a Thursday night to begin the season. 51 points, that's kind of scary.
Yeah. There wasn't a lot of defense there. You know, from what I saw from Rutgers last night, Arkansas should be able to move the ball on them, but Gary Nova, the quarterback for Rutgers, who picked Arkansas apart last year, is back, and he did a great job again last night against Fresno State. Now, Fresno State was picked, I think they were a 10-point favorite in that ball game, and Rutgers really gave them all they wanted. In fact, Fresno State should have lost the ball game. Rutgers outplayed them, but Fresno was able to pull out the victory. But, you know, you look at Fresno, and you'd say they're not quite on the caliber of an SEC ball club. I really felt good about the Razorbacks' chances after last night with Rutgers. But, you know, matchups are everything. And if Arkansas' secondary looks anything like it did last year against Rutgers, they're going to have a hard time beating Rutgers at Rutgers.
Well, you got to look at 3 teams that Arkansas will be playing this year. Last night, you got South Carolina, Ole Miss, and Rutgers. The first game was the kickoff of the college football season. It started off with a bang. Just a couple plays in, South Carolina hits a big play for a touchdown. They were pretty much not pretty much. They were in control all night long against North Carolina, however, and they won 27-10. However, a lot of the talk today, Brad, is around Jadeveon Clowney, who was a Heisman Trophy front runner in a lot of people's minds, and they're talking about his conditioning. Look, I said this last night on Twitter during the game. People don't understand that Jadeveon Clowney has completely changed the game plan of the teams that he's going to play against. They're going to run 2 guys at him. They're going to chip with the fullback. They're going to chip with the tight end and running back. They're going to do what they can to keep him out of the play. So it may not look like he's doing much, but that's the point. They're taking him out of the game, and somebody else is going to have an impact. South Carolina wins 27-10. Although Jadeveon Clowney did look winded at times, and it did look like he just sort of gave up on some plays, it may have been, Brad, and I know this isn't a real good excuse, because of the fact that North Carolina was game planning against stopping him pretty much exclusively.
Sure. Well, he saw double teams all night long last night. He also, the left tackle for North Carolina is an All-American caliber left tackle. So it's not like he was going up against chopped liver. But at the same time, I thought there were some plays that he definitely dogged it last night. And here's my thing. You know, the thought before the season, there was a thought that he might even skip his junior season and just train and get ready for the draft and all that stuff. Okay, well, you decided to play. Now go out there and don't cheat the game. Don't worry about, and I say that because I'm not one that's going to be making millions, but you know, try not to worry about getting hurt and just play the game. You probably, for your whole life, you played the game of football. You've had the risk of getting injured, but you haven't sat there and thought about it. So he needs to go out there and play the game right. Because, look, if he comes out and he dogs it this season and he doesn't have a good season, they're going to do everything that they can to try to pick him apart. Because anytime that you come in with that kind of hype and that kind of expectation, people are going to try to tear you down right off the bat. And I believe that's what he'll go through if he goes out there and he doesn't have a stellar season. Last night was not a stellar game for him. And for the Heisman Trophy candidacy that ESPN tried to launch for him, it really didn't work out all that well last night for him. Now, of course, as the year goes on, I'm sure that the impact of Jadeveon Clowney is going to be felt, no doubt. But I don't think he got off to a very good start last night.
See, I could argue that his impact was felt last night. You watched the game. Everything they did was predicated on what if the quarterback turned around to throw a screen pass and he saw Jadeveon Clowney anywhere near him, it was a 2-count quicker than it normally would have been. If there was a play drawn up, especially the running plays, they were making sure that they went away from him if they could, even running to the short side of the field to avoid running to the wide side of the field where he was. I feel like he had an impact on the game plan for North Carolina, even if he only had 3 tackles and no sacks. He had a big impact on the game last night. Now, my question would be about his effort at times, but I'll be honest with you. If I were out there and I knew that whatever I did, the other team was just going to go the other direction, I would probably be tempted to just kind of stand there and watch when they ran the other direction too, but he's got a lot of money on the line. So we're very excited, if you can't tell, about college football beginning. The opening games of the college football season last night. Tomorrow you'll get to see the Razorbacks kick off at 3 o'clock. We got plenty of talk today about that game. We're actually going to give some tickets away here in just a little bit. Our final segment, our Hog Talk segment, about 11:45, we'll let you know who wins those tickets, and you got plenty of time left to enter. If you would like, you go to facebook.com/RVL News, share our little post there with the tickets on it, and it tells you how to win. All you have to do is like the Facebook page of River Valley Leader and share that status, that story, and you will have a chance to win 2 tickets. We're going to be excited to give those away. They're great seats, right about the 30-yard line, about 30 rows up. You could really not do much better than these tickets, so we're excited about that. And then you'll have till about 4 o'clock to come pick them up, and then if nobody claims them by then, we'll just give them away to somebody else that will go, because we don't want to wait till tomorrow and kind of put somebody in a bad spot. So we're very excited about Hog football. We're going to talk plenty about the Razorback game here in just a little bit, but following that South Carolina game, if you were watching it last night, there was a lightning delay. ESPN had to go away from it, and luckily it happened about the time that the Ole Miss Vanderbilt game was about to kick off. So you got to switch over there and you watched that game, and Ole Miss came out, really was flat to begin the game. Vanderbilt took a big, a 10-point lead, and Ole Miss came back, and it was just back and forth throughout the game until the very end of the game. Vanderbilt scores with about a minute left. Ole Miss comes back with a 75-yard touchdown run to take the lead, and then Vanderbilt, off after just a crazy turn of events, throws an interception, long story short, to lose the game there. Just a wild game, Brad, and you can't ask for a better season opener than what we saw last night in Vanderbilt.
Oh, definitely. Game-wise, it was very entertaining and back and forth, lots of drama there. And, yeah, Ole Miss was able to pull it out. You know, a lot of people are picking Ole Miss to win a lot of games this year. I think Ole Miss really, in essence, I know this is probably way too early to say something like this, but I think they might have saved their season by winning that football game. And we talked about this already, about the schedule that they have coming up after the Southeast Missouri game, where they have at Texas, at Alabama, at Auburn, back-to-back. Then they come home and have to play Texas A&M and LSU in back-to-back weeks. That is a brutal 5-game stretch there, and I think at best they can hang their hat on coming out of that game or out of that stretch 1-4. But they're back half of the schedule, really the toughest team that they have to play on the back half is Arkansas. So they've got a really good schedule on the back half. It's just going to be able to be surviving this 5-game stretch that they have. They need to pick up that win at Auburn, but they really did themselves a favor last night by winning that game at Vanderbilt and setting themselves up for, I think, what will be a bowl season. And I'll tell you what, You saw some kids for Vanderbilt Ole Miss, last night. And when I say kids, I'm talking about freshmen that are really, really good. The Treadwell kid was very, very impressive last night. And then Robert Condici, I came out with some different thoughts on him.
You know what? I think we agree, too, on that.
Yeah, I think that Robert Condici is going to end up being a defensive tackle. He's too big to play defensive end in the SEC. He's not real fast off the end either. I think he'll end up playing on the inside because, look, he's just a freshman. He's still got some filling out to do, and he's at 300 pounds. So I don't think he's got anywhere to go but inside. But all that said, he's still a very good player, and they've got some real talent down there in Ole Miss. As far as the young guys, I thought their defensive effort was pretty poor, and I thought that their offensive line didn't look very good. So they are beatable, and you'll just have to see how the season develops, because what a team looks like on the first game is not what they're going to look like down the road. So I think that, as far as people trying to chalk Arkansas up for a win in that game, you might need to hold on just a second and let's see how the season develops.
Yeah, I tweeted about that last night. I talked about how mad the Ole Miss fans are going to be whenever they see Arkansas hold the ball against them as much as they possibly can in that game, because Ole Miss, you watched them when Vanderbilt would score, it was just kind of like they were like, all right, well, that's all right. We get the ball back now, and we get to just pound it down your throat running this tempo. And Arkansas, when they grind the tempo to a halt, Ole Miss is not going to like that, and it remains to be seen if Arkansas can even do that. But the fact that Arkansas' style is going to be a little different than what Ole Miss is, I think it can mess up the speed with which Ole Miss plays and the way they like to play, and I think that can be a benefit to the Razorbacks.
Oh, I agree with you 100%. I actually think that Ole Miss's tempo last night had as much to do with that win as anything, because you could see in the fourth quarter that Vanderbilt, on a very, very hot night, was wearing down, and both teams were wearing down. But Ole Miss was the one that got the last laugh, and that with Scott's 75-yard run for a touchdown. You don't see too many games end like that where a guy runs a 75-yard touchdown within the last minute of the game to win it. I mean, that was a very exciting ball game, and I'm looking forward to more games this weekend for sure.
Yeah, that Vanderbilt, the way that game ended was just odd altogether for those that didn't get to watch it. You saw Jeff Matthews, who was just an incredible wide receiver, Jordan Matthews there for Vanderbilt, who's a senior, just possibly going to be the all-time leader in receptions and yards there in the SEC. 10 catches for 178 yards, but there in the fourth quarter is literally throwing up on the field because people were saying it was because of concussion symptoms. I saw him get hit in the stomach pretty good with the shoulder there right in the rib area, and that may have just jarred his dinner loose, but he was just incredible for the whole game. Jeff Scott with 12 carries for 138 yards, including that 75-yarder. Laquan Treadwell, the freshman for Ole Miss, I compared him a couple times on Twitter to Des Bryant, and then I heard the NFL or the ESPN guys on the broadcast mention the exact same thing, because what they were doing was what Dallas has been doing in the preseason, basically snap, throw, and just let him go, or send him on about a 10 or 12-yard dig and let him just catch one in the middle of the field and go to town, and you're good luck, because he's 6'3", 220. He's going to be really, really good. I didn't like the way that the announcers, even when Vanderbilt was up double digits, is just slurping all over these freshmen, talking about how great they are. They are good. And, one of them Treadwell had 82 yards. One of them had an interception. Camdici looked very, very good. But, if I was Vanderbilt's fans, I probably wouldn't be real happy about the way the game was announced. But either way, it was a fun game, a fun start to the season, 39-35. Ole Miss wins, and both of those teams are going to have their work cut out for them in the SEC. Arkansas plays Ole Miss this year in the West there, so that's going to be a fun one. We need to make, before we go to break, though, we've got plenty more football, so don't think we're done with that. Found out just the other night, I guess it was Wednesday night, about 10 o'clock, from Arkansas Tech. This is our Peters Family Living local sports look, by the way, that Arkansas head coach Doug Carlson secured commitments from Clarksville trio, Freddie Lee, Kendrick Lee, and Darren Lee to play basketball at Arkansas Tech. A huge, if not tall, commitments there for Arkansas Tech. Freddie Lee, Kendrick Lee being big contributors to the Clarksville Panther program for 3 years now, Brad, and it's going to be fun to watch them playing at Tucker Coliseum.
Oh, my goodness. Arkansas Tech really got a boost, if nothing else, in attendance for a while when it comes to having those kids on the floor together. Freddie Lee, I've said before, one of the most fun kids that I have ever seen play high school basketball. I mean, you just look at him and go out there and think, this kid is not going to be all that good, and then he comes out and just absolutely dominates folks. And Kendrick has his moments as well, where he just does things that you're just your jaws dropped. And those kids are very entertaining to watch, and I expect that they'll be able to do a lot of the same things on the college level at Arkansas Tech. And there was a reason that Coach Carlos wanted them that bad. And so I'm happy to see him, and hopefully I'll get to watch him play 1 or 2 times down there myself.
Definitely. Well, a big shout-out to Coach Carlskin on the job well done there. And there's one guy who's going to be forgotten in this, but not by the Sports Blitz. It's Brandon Friedel. He recruited those guys for 3 years. Just got a job this year in Little Rock. I wish I could remember the school name, but he recruited those guys really hard for 3 years. He goes on and doesn't get to see the fruits of his labor, but congratulations again to Arkansas Tech. Big pickups for them. We've got the story and video interviews with those guys live at rivervalleyleader.com if you want to go check that out. Got plenty more college football, and we'll get to the Razorbacks and our ticket winner right after this break.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out rivervalleyleader.com.
Over 69 years of treating you like family, Peters Family Living's main goal is customer service. That is their promise to their customers. They offer in-house financing on furniture and appliances and a 30-day money-back guarantee. For a friendly, no-pressure atmosphere, visit Peters Family Living today at 201 North Arkansas Avenue, Russellville, online at petersfamilyliving.com, or call 479-968-2929.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
here's what you missed.
Updated news.
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
Developing stories.
There's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
And weather and traffic on the force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on. KRK4 today.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. You know, we've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
Got football starting all over the place. Congratulations to UCA on their win last night over Incarnate Word. I made the joke during the break that UCA beat up on Jesus last night. That's a theological joke there for you, so go look it up if you have to. We're going to talk a lot of college football today, but before we get there, big news on the Johnny Manziel front. That's one that I want to talk about at length here in just a moment. But and that came out after we left Wednesday. But the big news that came out yesterday was about the NFL and their pretty much. I don't want to say it's a settlement to the suit between the players and the former players and the NFL. The NFL has reached a tentative $765 million settlement over concussion-related brain injuries among its 18,000 retired players, according to ESPN.com. They're agreeing to compensate victims, pay for medical exams, and underwrite research. There will have to be a judge that okays this deal, but Brad, it's going to pay out to 4,500 current players and former players who were involved in this suit, and then, as that mentioned, 18,000 retired players. It does not involve an admission of guilt from the NFL, but Brad, I find it kind of hard to believe that you're paying someone $765 million for nothing.
Right. The $765 million is all the admission of guilt that you need.
Yeah.
I mean, if I had that kind of money and I had to pay it out, there would be some guiltiness somewhere. I promise you that. But that comes out to be about $150,000 per player. But the settlement says that if you're struck with Alzheimer's, then you get like $5 million, and if you have dementia, then you're looking at $3 million. So there's going to be some trickle down to where some players don't get anything. And as I told you in the break, you can't satisfy everybody. And there are going to be people that are going to be upset about this, which you've already seen.
Oh, yeah. There are some people like I was on Twitter yesterday, and I saw a friend of Junior Seau say, so my friend Junior Seau's life is only worth $170,000. And I thought, the fact that you're asking for money tells me that there is a number that you could get you'd be okay with. And I'm not saying that that's what your friend's life is worth, but at the end of the day, if you're asking for any money at all, you're basically saying there's a number that I'll shut up for. And that's what the NFL players and the NFL have worked out. And Chris Mortensen said it this morning on ESPN. It's hush money. The NFL doesn't have to open their books and say, this is what we know, this is when we knew it. And the players don't get to come back with a huge suit later on saying, we want, okay, you make $1 billion a year, we want half of it every year. They can't come back with the suit. It's sort of, here's your hush money. This is the NFL playing the mob. I guess the players playing the mob, and the NFL's giving them their hush money. It's kind of crazy the way this sort of thing went, because the NFL, it's really, in my opinion, a win for the NFL. They get 20 years to pay out this $675 million that is quote-unquote for compensation. And over the first 3 years, they're going to pay half, and then over the other 17, they're going to pay the other half. I just think that it's crazy that they don't have to admit some sort of guilt and open their books, but that's what the players agreed to. Money.
That's what they agreed to. That's what it was all about anyway. Was money. If you really want to get down to it, this is a theory of mine. I just believe that the players were upset because they weren't getting the money that these guys are getting now, and this was the way to go about getting a cut of the pie. They've been trying to get a cut of the pie for a long time, so now it's concussion, and this is how they got it. And $765 million, the NFL could pay that out this year.
Yep.
And for the fact that they have to pay it out in 20 years, you know what that money is to the NFL?
Chump change.
It's a pimple on the proverbial butt of the NFL, is all it is.
Yeah, well, that's going to be an interesting story to find out here in the next 10 years what the players who come up and say, we had nothing to do with this, and now people are even worse off than they were before. Why do we have to shut up, and why do we not get to come after what we feel like we deserve, because you guys 10, 15, 20 years ago made this deal that was for chump change? That's going to be 10, 20 years down the road. That's going to be an interesting storyline. Another interesting storyline came out Wednesday after we left the air. I still can't believe how this Johnny Manziel situation ended. If you watched Wednesday's show, you saw me say emphatically more than once, Johnny Manziel's playing. The Texas A&M is not going to sit him because it would be some sort of admission of guilt on their part, and the NCAA and the money that comes from Johnny Manziel playing, they're not going to put that out for allegations. They're going to have some hard proof, and they didn't have any. We knew that, or else he'd have been sitting out or ineligible or whatever a long time ago. It comes out Wednesday afternoon. Johnny Manziel is going to get the stiffest punishment I've ever heard. He is going to have to sit an entire half. What?
Yeah. Mark, it's ridiculous. I don't even know why the NCAA even exists anymore, except to collect money, and that's all they're out there doing, and basically to look stupid, because that's what they continue to do on a daily basis. It seems like just look dumb. And this Johnny Manziel thing, they come out and they go after him like they're gonna take his whole season away. And there were people that were talking about this, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, we can't do anything. We can't prove anything. We can't prove that the guy sat in a hotel room and signed autographs for basically a day and a half, 4,400 autographs. We can't prove that he took money off of it, even though there's a video that says that he's going to buy new rims with the money that he's getting. I mean, it's absolutely asinine. It's stupid. They shouldn't have suspended him for anything. If you really want to know, if you're gonna go and suspend a guy for a half, he don't even need to be suspended at all. And it was just absolutely ridiculous what the NCAA did this time, and they just look more stupid every single time that they try to go out and do something publicly. I mean, it's the biggest cluster that you've ever seen.
Yeah, well, it really is. And I said, whenever this came out, that this was an insult to our intelligence, because as college football fans, now we're led to believe that Johnny Manziel, he did something wrong, but he didn't really do anything wrong, because if he did, he'd be out a long time. So it's like the NCAA and Texas A&M got together and they said, all right, how can we both be made happy? Well, the NCAA, we're just blood suckers. We're out for whatever we can do to punish people for wrongdoing. And Texas A&M says, well, we don't want you to come after us later on if you do get information. So what they basically came to is, if you'll have him sit for a half, we'll close the books. We'll stop this investigation. And what's going to happen here in a couple weeks is one of those vendors that sold his autograph is going to anonymously tell somebody in the media, yeah, I gave him money. And, or Johnny Manziel years from now is going to come out and say, yeah, I took money. And it's just going to make the NCAA look that much more stupid. But to me, if you're going to suspend a guy for you're wasting our time if you're suspending a guy for half a game, because either he did something wrong or he didn't. They're saying now that the NCAA has told him that you're sitting for this half because you signed the autographs, and it was for somebody you knew was going to sell them, which is apparently illegal now. So it wasn't even the fact that he signed them and took money for them. It was the fact that he signed them for somebody who was going to turn around and sell them. Sounds a little hypocritical of the NCAA, if you ask me. And it seems like, Brad, the whole thing that Jay Billis brought forward on them about selling jerseys with people's numbers and basically making money off players like Johnny Manziel, they were going after a little preemptive work there when they took down those jerseys, because they knew what they were going to do a couple weeks later. It's just, to me, like you said, it's a cluster.
Well, I think that Jay Billis probably saved some eligibility for Johnny Manziel when he did that, because here's what I think. I actually think that had the NCAA really pressed the issue, Johnny Manziel's team would have sued the NCAA for the right to be able to make money off his autograph, which would have changed the whole game. And which I believe that's where they're headed anyway, but I don't think that they would want to go about it in that way against a lawsuit. And so I think that was part of the reason why Johnny Manziel got off. But the main reason is he's making money, Texas A&M's making money, and there was no way that they were going to take this kid off the field.
No, you're right. It's just a crazy, crazy circumstance behind Johnny Manziel, and it's funny that Wednesday it comes out. Game Saturday, Texas A&M hasn't given anybody else really first-team reps. They're going to start, looks like a freshman, for a half, and then Johnny Manziel will come back in the second half. He'll be the NCAA's savior, and he'll line their pockets for another year before he goes pro. It's just crazy. The hypocrisy of the NCAA is just nuts. All right, we're going to take a break, but we've got a couple questions we wanted you to get involved with us on. Today on the Sports Blitz, we're going to give away 2 tickets here in just a little while, but while you're at it, you might as well come to our Facebook page, facebook.com/sportsblitz or facebook.com/RVLnews, and answer our questions. And why don't you give us your score prediction? We've got a couple of them. Any bold predictions that you might have, or answer our Peters Family Living poll question. We'll be back to talk about that and the Razorbacks right after this.
Over 69 years of treating you like family, Peter's Family Living's main goal is customer service. That is their promise to their customers. They offer in-house financing on furniture and appliances and a 30-day money-back guarantee. For a friendly, no-pressure atmosphere, visit Peter's Family Living today at 201 North Arkansas Avenue, Russellville. Online at petersfamilyliving.com or call 479-968-2929.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
Here's what you missed.
updated news,
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
developing stories,
There's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
and weather and traffic on the Force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on KRK4 today.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
It's time for Hog Talk here on the Sports Blitz. If you sense a little excitement in me, it's because it's hog time, man. It's time for the Hogs to kick off tomorrow at 3 o'clock. We're looking forward to the game. We've sort of broken it down this week, but we're going to get in a little greater detail. We're even going to give you a score prediction here in just a little bit. Today's Peter's Family Living poll question: what are you most looking forward to in regards to college football this weekend? Chris Rogers says, calling my Hogs. I figured that these were going to be all hog related, but I didn't know if there would be somebody who would say, I'm looking forward to seeing the second half of that Texas A&M game, see what Johnny Manziel does, or to watch Alabama, Virginia Tech, or Clemson, Georgia, or any of these other big games that are going to happen this weekend. Chris Rogers says, calling my Hogs. Corey Lynn Williams says, being at Donald W. Reynolds Razorback Stadium. His least looked forward to event of this weekend will be being in the sun for 4 hours, because he's going to be at the stadium right there in the middle of the sun. And then John Fletcher says, Alex Collins. Brad, what are you most looking forward to this weekend?
I'm just looking forward to the start of the Brett Bielema era after the John L. Smith error. I think that it's just time for a new start. Wipe this slate clean and let's get it going. And that's what's happened over the last 8 months. And here we are, one day away from a new start, a fresh start. I think the future is bright for Arkansas with this current coaching staff. And I'm just looking forward to getting this thing going. And I think that the Hogs will surprise some people this year.
Well, we'll give score predictions and record predictions and that type of thing here in just a little bit. But like I said earlier in the week, there are a bunch of things that I'm looking forward to. There are some things that I will consider success that I don't know that other people would. Just a couple little things that I'm looking for this weekend, Brad, and you can chime in here. I'm hoping that Brandon Allen can get to at least 200 yards passing. I think that's a reachable number, especially with Louisiana Lafayette not being an SEC quality defense. Now, Louisiana Lafayette's going to put a good offense on the field, but their defense should be something that Arkansas can take advantage of. I want to see Jonathan Williams get to 100 yards. I'd like to see Alex Collins get to somewhere around the 70-yard mark at least, and then I would like to see Kiero Small run the ball a few times. I put 50 yards here, but it really doesn't matter to me. I'd like to see him at about 3 face masks. That's what I'd like to see. Him break about 3 face masks this week, Brad.
Yeah. Well, I think that Small will get the ball more than he would have had before. In fact, that was a comment that was made even as of yesterday in the coach's press conferences. So you're right on that, Mark. I like Jonathan Williams to get 100 yards in a lot of games. I like Jonathan Williams to be a guy that rushes for close to 1,000 yards, if not 1,000 yards this year. In fact, I'll go ahead and say he will rush for 1,000 yards as long as he doesn't get hurt. I'm looking forward to seeing the phenom Alex Collins, but my biggest thing that I'm looking forward to is watching these offensive and defensive lines do something good, because Arkansas has lacked in the offensive line department and defensive line department, for that matter, for a long time as far as just production on the field. The defensive line, for the last few years, Arkansas has had talent, but it just hasn't shown up on the field. And I think that hopefully this time around, Coach Partridge and the things that he did with Wisconsin and J.J. Watt and other names to go along with them, I believe that Arkansas will see some production from the defensive line, but the offensive line as well. You know, it's no fun when you go to an Arkansas game in years past and watch the defensive line get pushed around by the likes of Jacksonville State and other teams like that, and you just wonder, why can't Arkansas run the ball against these guys? I'm looking for an imposed will, and that's what I hope to see this weekend. I hope that Arkansas can impose their will upon Louisiana, and Arkansas come away with a big victory.
You know, you mentioned before, Brad, some big tackles, freshman tackles, and I talked about it more than once how I'm not that impressed because they're freshmen. But watching last night, some of the guys that I saw, especially Ole Miss, those the big offensive tackle that they just got, the freshman, and then the defensive end, Robert Kimdichie, there at Ole Miss. It gave me a little hope for the freshmen on Arkansas's offensive line. Now, the defensive line I thought was a strength anyway, but watching Jadeveon Clowney last night and knowing that Chris Smith and Trey Flowers are going to get to pin their ears back a little bit this weekend against Louisiana, I'm looking forward to seeing the lines as well, although I'll admit defensive line is not the problem in my mind. I think that linebackers and defensive backs are what I'm going to be paying the most attention to of anything. Now, on offense, obviously I'm an offensive guy. I'd like to see Arkansas put up 50 points. I'd like to see them spread it out, run, throw, basically have balance. But to me, the most attention that will be paid this weekend for me will be in the linebackers and the defensive backs.
Yeah, I like where your head's at on that. Arkansas definitely needs some big-time improvement in those areas. Again, we talked about looking for the ball with the defensive backs the first time that a guy actually looks at the ball coming his way.
Yeah.
I think the fans will probably give them a standing ovation.
Bronx cheer.
It's something that Arkansas has not seen. We'll go back to the likes of the Houston Nutt days when they would throw a pass over 20 yards, and even though it went incomplete, there would be a standing ovation. It might be something similar to that. With the defensive backs, the linebackers, probably to me the biggest concern on the team to me is the linebackers, because I just don't look at the corps that Arkansas has right now and say that they've just got a lot of talent that they're going to be able to trot out there on the field. But you know what? Coaching can cover up some deficiencies, and so let's see what Randy Shannon, who obviously by far and away is the best linebackers coach that Arkansas has had in a long, long time, if not ever. Let's see how that works out for Arkansas. And again, I'd like to see these linebackers play downhill. It's been a long time since Arkansas has played downhill with their linebackers, filling gaps, making tackles behind the line of scrimmage. Those are things that I want to see Arkansas do that would make me feel good going forward about this defense.
Yeah, there are a lot of things that could make me feel a lot better about this defense. The defensive backs, like you mentioned, turning around and finding a ball. The first time that there's an interception that's not just a tip ball, and that'll make me happy too. I won't lie. But the first time that there's a defensive back who a cornerback, let's put it that way. If there's a cornerback that can get an interception off one of those, running right with the wide receiver, turn around, find the ball, pick it off, I might take a lap around my house. I'm not even joking. I've done it before. I might take a lap around the house, and the first time a linebacker steps in a hole and just meets a guy for no gain rather than getting run over and tackling a guy for 5 yards, one of those, basically, I'm going to stand here. You're going to get 5 yards, but I'm going to tackle you by letting you run me over and grabbing a hold of you. The first time Arkansas goes with I'm going to pound you into the ground for no gain, I might take another lap. So I may be sweaty after this game if Arkansas can do what I expect them to do. Although, Brad, I found it interesting that Kirk Herbstreit, the guy from ESPN and Game Day, has picked Louisiana Lafayette, I almost said Louisiana Monroe, to beat Arkansas in this game. He expects that Louisiana is going to come in and bring the wood, as Darren McFadden would say.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not buying that. There's several reasons. One of these things that you mentioned is Louisiana Monroe by accident. Last year, Louisiana Monroe was an aberration. It wasn't the norm. And I know that it's got a lot of people thinking, it's got a lot of people scared about this game. But if you look at that, Arkansas was up 21-7 when Tyler Wilson went out, and Brandon Allen comes in on his first drive and leads it to a touchdown. And then from that point forward, the ball just started going downhill on Arkansas, and they couldn't stop it. And the reason that they could not stop the ball from going downhill against Louisiana Monroe that night was because that was a leaderless team. And I don't look at this team now and think that they have no leader. And most of the time when a Sun Belt team comes into Arkansas, we expect to roll over them. And that's even with teams that aren't quite up to par to what we would think as a good Arkansas team. And so Lafayette, yes, they do come in with some credentials, and yes, they did go into the swamp and give Florida all that they wanted. But let's look at Florida just a second. When they went into the Sugar Bowl last year against Louisville, they were hoping to play for the national championship against Alabama, and that didn't happen, so they ended up playing in the Sugar Bowl. Did they look like they were interested in playing in the Sugar Bowl against a pretty good Louisville team? No.
Nope.
So what that tells me is I don't think that the Florida Gators were really all that into playing UL Lafayette in that late season game last year. And so I think that coupled with the Louisiana Monroe loss is getting Arkansas fans worried. But I don't think those are things that Arkansas fans should take and say, well, Lafayette is going to beat Arkansas. Yes, they do have some talent. They do have a running quarterback, which in the past, running quarterbacks have given Arkansas all kinds of fits. But this is a new day. And so I think Arkansas fans just need to give this game a chance, and let's see what happens. But I do expect Arkansas, the Razorbacks, to be more sound fundamentally on each side of the ball, which should actually make things, those things that we have had such trouble with, such as running quarterbacks in the past, it shouldn't be as bad this go around. Even though, yeah, we don't have the players that we would like to have out there just yet, but fundamentally, Arkansas should do better, especially on the defensive side of the ball, which I think can lead to better things.
Well, look, I think it's going to be a close game. I do think that Louisiana is going to bring a style that it's going to be hard for Arkansas to stop right off the bat. But I feel like that what you were talking about Florida and the fact that they went in there and played so well in the swamp, and the fact that Herbstreit is picking Louisiana Lafayette, and the fact that this is going to be a close game as far as the line goes, I think that's going to hurt Louisiana in the long run. What are you talking about, Mark? Well, the reason I say that is because Arkansas in the past, Louisiana Monroe, nobody in Arkansas expected to lose to Louisiana Monroe. Arkansas came in there, and I'm not saying that they were flat and terrible, but they just underestimated Louisiana Monroe. Louisiana Lafayette's got Arkansas's full attention. You're going to have a new coach, a new system, a freshness. It's not going to be one of those second game of the year, well, we rolled over that team, we're going to roll over this team, and here we go, we'll just go on to next week, and here comes Alabama here in a couple weeks. It's going to be one of those things where the players are going to be focused. The reason that I still say it's going to be close is because I feel like Louisiana is a good enough team to make it that way, but I feel like that all these people like Herbstreit picking ULL to win the game may work against them in the long run. Arkansas is going to come into the game focused. You're going to see a team that is hungry and is not, overlooking Louisiana in this game. So I feel like, though, Brad, it's going to be a close game. And if I were a betting man and the spread was like 10.5, I wouldn't pick the game because I feel like it's going to be right in that range. I feel like Arkansas is going to win the game, and I don't feel like Louisiana is going to come in here and catch them off guard.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And for all those reasons that you stated, my biggest thing is when I look at the size of Arkansas versus the size of Louisiana, and that makes me think that it's going to be hard for the Raging Cajuns to match up with the Hogs. It's just going to be difficult when you have when you're 20 pounds down or 30 pounds down, average on the lines. It's just hard to keep up. And again, we looked at Louisiana's roster, and they have 3 guys on the whole roster over 300 pounds. And Arkansas has a plethora of 300-pounders. Robert Thomas comes in at the defensive tackle as a 325-pounder. Byron Jones comes in right at 300 pounds at the nose tackle. So you've got 2 guys right there on the defensive front that are 200 or 300-plus pounders. Then your offensive line, 10 deep, is over 300 pounds. I just don't see the Raging Cajuns being able to match up strength-wise and size-wise with the Hogs. And this is what Arkansas's game is predicated on. And for that reason and that reason alone, I think Arkansas is probably going to win the football game.
You saw last night that South Carolina, their offensive line outweighed defensive line for North Carolina by 50 pounds a man. That's going to come into effect for Arkansas as well. It's not going to be 50 pounds quite, but I'm sure it'll be at least 20 or 30 pounds where Arkansas's offensive line outweighs Louisiana's defensive line. And then when you flip the script, I think Arkansas on the defensive line is probably going to outweigh Louisiana's offensive line. Now, that doesn't make all the difference in the world, but I'm sure it'll have some effect wearing guys down toward the end of the game. We've got 2 Razorback tickets to give away, and the winner is going to be announced right after this break.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. You know, we've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
Over 69 years of treating you like family, Peters Family Living's main goal is customer service. That is their promise to their customers. They offer in-house financing on furniture and appliances and a 30-day money-back guarantee. For a friendly, no-pressure atmosphere, visit Peters Family Living today at 201 North Arkansas Avenue, Russellville, online at petersfamilyliving.com, or call 479-968-2929.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
Oh, it's an exciting moment. I just about got chills when you started playing the fight song right there. I might cry right now. I don't even know. Wow, we just drew during the break for these 2 Razorback tickets. They exist. This is really happening. Giving away 2 tickets to Section 103, seat 25 on the 33rd row, about the 30-yard line, for the Arkansas-Louisiana game tomorrow. The kickoff's at 3 o'clock. And congratulations to Chastity Smith, who has entered to win among 500 people. Congratulations, yes, among 500-plus people who join. And we'll hope to give some tickets away later on. So you guys that didn't win, you'll have another chance, I'm sure, later on. But Chastity Smith is our winner. We will post the screen capture of Maddie picking this. We want to be above board here so that you can know we didn't just pick somebody we knew. We have no idea who this is. So, Chastity, you can pick up your tickets here at the River Valley Leader office. We're right in here in the same strip mall as Brangus in the old National Home Center strip here at 1509 East Main Street, Suite 4. Come pick them up by about 5 o'clock today, and you can make your way to Fayetteville tomorrow to watch the Hogs beat Louisiana Lafayette. Brad, we both expect the Hogs to win, do we not?
Yes. Obviously, I've been dancing all over that all so long. But yes, I do expect Arkansas to win.
All right. Do you have a score prediction for me?
Yeah, I'm going to go 31-17 Arkansas. I think Arkansas not only covers the spread, but they look pretty good in doing it. I'm going to be straight up with you. I think Arkansas is going to be a little bit better than people expect them to be this year. Now, I don't know exactly how many wins that's going to lead to. I've said this over and over. Our schedule right now just does not add up to be a lot of victories because outside of Ole Miss, I look at Arkansas' schedule and say it's probably the toughest in the SEC. But I also think that Arkansas is going to be pretty good and going to be able to beat teams like Lafayette, Southern Miss, Sanford, Rutgers. I expect Arkansas to be 4-0 coming out of the preseason, and I look for Arkansas to be able to impose their will on Lafayette tomorrow, and that's why I think Arkansas will win the game by 2 touchdowns, if not more.
It's funny that we didn't talk about this, and you have 31-17. I have 31-20. Arkansas winning over Louisiana. I said earlier that I thought it was going to be a close game because Louisiana is going to bring in a style that's going to be tough to deal with. Now, Arkansas is going to have an advantage in size. In a lot of different places, they're going to have the mass advantage. I feel like they're going to be able to impose their will with the offensive line, and Louisiana is not going to have the ball as much as they might like, but 20 points I feel like is probably about where they'll be. I mentioned earlier in the show I want to see Brandon Allen throw for roughly 200 yards. With that happening and Alex Collins getting roughly 70 yards, Jonathan Williams getting roughly 100 yards, you'll see some guys in the passing game that are going to have to step up as well. Javonte Herndon, Julian Horton, some guys in the wide receiver core. Now, Brad, we've had some injuries that have taken place, but it's time for these seniors in Horton, Herndon, and some of these other guys to step up in the wide receiver core.
Yeah, and I think that you're going to see that. You know, Keon Hatcher's a guy we hadn't heard a whole lot from in the fall camp because of an injury. He's coming back. He had a great spring game, and the guy that has a lot of ability. Guys like Holmes. Of course, Holmes is a guy that's kind of a running back hybrid, but I think he can take up some of the slack there at the wide receiver spot as well, as far as maybe catching balls over the backfield, maybe even lining him up at the slot because he's a guy that can make things happen. There's going to be some guys that are going to come out of nowhere, you know, guys that we haven't even really been able to talk about. They're going to come out and make some noise this year. There'll be a guy, I promise you, this year for Arkansas that not many people are talking about right now, but by the end of the season, we'll be saying, hey, that guy was a pretty good player. And obviously, because I can't name him, I don't know who it's going to be.
I was going to say, if you had a name, who jumps to the front of mind? We've heard a lot about Jarrett Lake this year. I think I heard somebody else the other day in the media say that by the end of the year, you'll know Jarrett Lake's name. I feel like there's somebody, like you said, who's going to step up, and everybody by the end of the year is going to be like, wow, that guy's really good.
Yeah, I think that Martrell Spate is a guy that Arkansas has a chance of making an impact on this season. I think that he's a guy that really has made some noise in the camp, but hasn't gotten a starting position just yet. So I look for him maybe to be one of those guys, maybe a guy out of the secondary that nobody's talking about. The wide receiver spot is a place where there's a guy that could step up here and there. You never know. But there are going to be some people that by the end of the season we're going to be saying, hey, you know, that's something that Arkansas can build on going forward.
Man, I'm looking forward to seeing Zach Hawker in his senior year. He's had some ups and some downs, but all accounts say that he's had a really good spring and summer training camp there. He's won obviously he was the kicker, but he's won the punting job as well. Sam Irwin-Hill coming in, kicks at both feet. And they said on tape that just drives you nuts because you feel like you're watching it backwards sometimes, but he's kicking with both feet. And Zach Hawker beats out the talented JUCO transfer for the punting job. I look for him to try to make himself some money this year. That's a Russellville product who wants to go to the NFL.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and Zach has all the ability to do just that, and I think he will. I think he'll make some money. I think he'll be punting in the NFL, kicking in the NFL, something. He will be doing something like that come next year.
All right, well, let's nail it down real quickly, Brad. We've just got a couple minutes left in the show today. We've talked back and forth about the season, and you gave a little bit of a look a moment ago. Let's nail down our final season predictions overall. How many wins do you have the Hogs getting? Last night watching Ole Miss, I was back and forth on that one. Traveling to Ole Miss, that's going to be a tough game. And watching Rutgers score 51 points last night, and you're traveling to Piscataway, New Jersey to play them, that's going to be another tough game. I've said that the Hogs, I was optimistic in saying that they'd win 6 games. There are some folks saying 8, 9 games that are outside their minds smoking something. But I've got them winning 6 games. I don't know how, and I don't know, who. I feel like they'll win the first 3 games, and then somewhere along the lines of these following teams, Brad, they're going to have a chance to win those other 3. Rutgers, Auburn, Ole Miss, Mississippi State. They'll win somewhere in there 2 of those other games or 3 of those other games. I don't think they're going to beat Florida. I don't think they're going to beat Texas A&M, and I don't think they're going to beat South Carolina, although A&M and South Carolina are both at home. And I'll be honest, Brad, watching last night, South Carolina, their defense just didn't necessarily scare me. When you could go away from Jadeveon Clowney, you could have some success. But that offense didn't look like they lost a step at all. You, however, are not impressed with Connor Shaw.
Man, Connor Shaw he kept North Carolina in that game. It looked like that South Carolina was going to go away. And, of course, they won 27-10. But they also broke the long run there to kind of put the game on ice. Connor Shaw was keeping North Carolina right there. And when you looked at his stats, somewhere in the second half he had like 149 yards passing. Well, 65 come out on one play. And he just didn't look very impressive to me. He never has looked very impressive to me. And so I think that he will keep South Carolina from being a very, very good team, because I do look at South Carolina and see a lot of good things going on there at Columbia. I think that they've got a lot of talent on that team. But, man, anytime that you don't have a quarterback, you don't have enough. And at this point, I don't think that South Carolina has a quarterback. As far as my season prediction goes, I've got Hogs winning the first 4, including the Rutgers game. Yeah, they hung 51 on Fresno, but anytime you go on the West Coast, most of the time those teams are predicated on offense and offense alone. I look for Arkansas to be able to beat Rutgers. I think, again, you're looking at a game where they have a chip on their shoulder. I also give Arkansas a chance in a game like a Texas A&M, like a South Carolina. Now, I'm not saying they're going to win either one of those games, but they're not going to get blown out. Then I look at those games that you mentioned, such as Ole Miss and Mississippi State and Auburn, and think those 3 are probably the key to the season as far as Arkansas getting to a bowl game. The Auburn games at home, I look for Arkansas to be able to beat Auburn, especially with all this chatter going on with Gus Malzahn and Brett Bielema. Bielema better win that game.
Yeah.
Or there's going to be a lot of talk coming back at him for sure. So I look for Arkansas to be able to beat Auburn. I also look for Arkansas to be able to beat Mississippi State. Ole Miss is littered with talent, but again, they have problems on their defense. They have problems on their offensive line. But by the time that they get to Arkansas or Arkansas gets to them, they could be a completely different team. And they've got a lot of young talent on that team. So that one is a game that would be tough, but Arkansas can win that game. I am going with an official prediction of 6-6. I think Arkansas will make a bowl game. I think it's a good chance that if they go 6-6 this year, they could end up in Memphis and playing probably the Conference USA champion. Last time Arkansas went to Memphis, they were successful, and lots of Hog fans turned out for that one. I look for Arkansas to head back to Memphis in the Liberty Bowl as a 6-6 bowl team and end up hopefully winning a bowl game and going 7-6. But I think that you're going to see Arkansas be headed in the right direction after this year. I think people will be very optimistic about the future with Brett Bielema, even though they will go or they should go 6-6 this year. But I think that these games that these pundits are not giving Arkansas much of a chance in, I think that Arkansas is going to show themselves to be a much better football team than most people expect them to be, and that's why I think that, sneaking a 7th game in there might be a possibility because I think Arkansas will be better, and I think there's some teams that are probably just Right for the picking a little bit. I think South Carolina could be one of those teams, just for the fact of Connor Shaw being not a very good quarterback, in my opinion. I think he keeps everybody else's chances when Connor Shaw's at quarterback are a little bit better. If South Carolina had a good quarterback, man, they would be really, really good.
Yeah, well, we both go with 6-6, and we both say that, Arkansas can win a couple more games, at least one more game. They could lose one more game, and our predictions are, they're solid now, but they're sort of fluid because we feel like Arkansas could go either way and win a game or so more, lose a game more possibly, but I look forward to watching the Hogs this year because it's going to be exciting to see a new style employed in Arkansas doing things in a different way. 3 p.m. kick tomorrow. It's going to be live on Fox Sports. We're going to have the surround sound pumping at my house. We're going to be watching it. But if you're going to the game, the U of A has announced that they're going to allow water bottles because it's going to be nearly 100 degrees. And they're going to allow some clear water bottles that you can fill up there for free so that you don't have to worry about hydration issues there at the game. But anyway, we're looking forward to a good game. Monday we'll come back and we'll break that game and all the other games down. Congratulations again to Chastity Smith, our ticket winner. You can come by about 4 o'clock today if you haven't claimed them by about 4 o'clock. And that's just telling us you're going to come get them. We'll give them away to somebody else, so you've got a couple hours to claim your tickets. Congratulations again, and thank you to everyone who entered. We will be back on Monday at 11 o'clock with more Sports Blitz. For the absent Brad and Maddie Lassiter, I'm Mark Freeman. So long, and we'll see you at rivervalleyleader.com, 11 o'clock on Monday.